That was a bloody, bloody Sunday, and it's going to get worse today, most likely. So as you probably know, and you're watching this, we've had a significant crash in the crypto market on Sunday. What was that? April 6th. And today we're going to see the stock market open up pretty badly. And it's probably the worst day. It's supposed to be probably the worst day since that day during COVID when the market crashed like 6 or 7 thousand points. So here's where we're at, is that right now you're probably watching this thinking, what do I do with my crypto? Do I hold on? Do I sell? Is it going to get worse? Is it going to get better? When's it going to get better? These are the things we're covering today. And I got some pretty decent insight. We're going to go over some macroeconomic news. We're going to go over what's going on with the tariffs and how that's going to affect your crypto. So with that, please remember, every single day in crypto is an adventure. Today is absolutely no exception. So we're going to be talking about all these things. But if you're not a subscriber, please do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button now. We do shows every day, give you all the alpha, what's going on, and take you along my journey. So with that, we're going to get right into talking about all the fear in the market right now. Here's an index from CNN, not my favorite news outlet, but it's just showing the extreme fear in the marketplace. I mean, one after the other. Now, do remember that news outlets make money on fear. 49% higher likelihood for you to click on a negative connotation on a article name versus a positive one. So much stronger chance you're going to click on something negative versus positive. Maybe not you, but most people out there. So fear and greed is just rampant in the marketplace. I mean, just terribly rampant in the marketplace. If you look at what's going on in the market, the actual crypto bubble says, gosh, look at this. I mean, it's hour, day, 16% on ETH, 17% on ETH, 16.6 on Aave, 16% on Sol, Cardano, 14.3%, XRP, 15%. It's wild. I mean, they're huge losses. I mean, this is crypto, but this is extreme. On the week, yeah, pretty ugly. ETH down 18%, Aave down 21%, Fartcoin up 18%. Who knew? Why? Polkadot 15%, Sui down 17%. So just an absolute bloodbath. Now let's take a quick look at Bitcoin before we get on to talking about the tariffs and what I think is going to happen. So here we are. Bitcoin has tested this floor of support. I mean, it reached down almost to the bottom of this another range and has popped back up. And so is the worst of this over? It's really hard to say that. A couple things have to happen for this to get better. But we've been down here before. I mean, well, a while back. But really, it's this line, and I don't know if I have this line perfectly drawn, but right around this area is a nice floor support. So if it can close above this floor support, the support did its job. Now, if it doesn't close above that floor support, there is a fair amount of room to run. If you look at this level, if we bust below this floor support, there's a lot of room to give up. I mean, a lot of room to give up. All this that could be given up. This is a small floor, but this is a pretty strong one, right? This level here is a strong one. If it can stay above that, if it can stay above this, there is a potential for a breakout because this is starting to look like a downward descending wedge pattern, and the consolidation means that it could burst to the upside. Now, we could still burst lower to capture the low side. If you look at the liquidity in the market, let's just pull you into one of those. This is where, I see a lot of future positive because we're starting to get into an area where, here we go. It's still mostly, the 7 days, mostly shorts that could be liquidated. All this short liquidation can happen. I mean, not a lot below the mark where we are now. Certainly not a lot below 72 of the longs that can be liquidated. It's mostly shorts out there right now. If you go to the 1 day, a little more pronounced, but on the there's some very short-term longs that could be liquidated around the 75 level mark. But look, a lot of liquidity to capture if Bitcoin can push forward. And that's Bitcoin. Now, I like XRP, I like Cardano, I like Solana, I like most of the main blue chips that actually have a purpose. And, we're seeing those down at similar down levels as well. XRP went down to $1.68. But what is causing all this? We know it's the Trump tariff talk. But look, this is Router's news line here. The positive things that are going to come out of this, Trump was set out to have the Fed lower the rates. That was his intention. It was also intention to negotiate better trade deals. Why? Because we've been in an extreme imbalance for a very long time. And it's this globalization that's been going on that, there's globalization narrative out there that has been going on for years, and it's at the expense of the American taxpayer for the most part. And I don't want to get into politics on this, but the reality is that, look, we are trying to renegotiate the tariff deals at the very least, and we're trying to push the Fed for lower rates. Now, it's coming at the expense of 401ks and stocks and things like that, but I do believe these things will bounce back. You see now, U.S. stocks set for third day of losses. Yeah, it's going to be an ugly one. Trump urges Fed to cut rates. We're going to talk about that. But just look at all this news. Volkswagen, Audi holding cars in U.S. port. Hong Kong to launch measures to boost companies. What kind of measures boost companies? There's going to be a lot of printing of money. This stock market to ban short selling. Can't read very well. Thai stock market to ban short selling. They're going to stop. You can't short sell. Trump urges Fed to cut rates. S&P 500 futures on pace to confirm bear market. Confirm the bear market. That's because it'll be down more than 20%. Now, we saw this in, if you remember not Y2K, that was worse, or different worse. But on February 20th, 2020, stock markets across the world suddenly crashed after growing instability due to COVID-19 pandemic. The crash ended April 7th. That was only, 45 or 60 days later. And then we saw a huge recovery. Look down here. I don't know if you can see this, but this stock market recovery, it was a fast one. Look, it was growing. It dropped through the floor, went from this almost 30,000 level to under 20,000. And I remember that day I bought GE, I bought Apple, I bought Delta, I bought Royal Caribbean, and those are up 1,000%, Royal Caribbean, some things like that. This was probably my smartest buying move I ever did. And that's, that is what it is. And then look at the recovery we had. By December, it was above where it had been. So this recovery, I would call that a bit of a V-shape. I'd call that almost a V-shape recovery. And so what's going to happen with the stock market now? Is this going to be more of a prolonged area of hurt and pain for the stock market? Or are they going to, if really nothing's fundamentally changed, but things are fundamentally changing with the trade, but for crypto, has it fundamentally changed? Let's look at Bitcoin dominance. Bitcoin is extremely dominant right now, the highest level of dominance we've seen in 4 years. Why? Because that's the flight to quality in the crypto world. Flight to quality means that you're going to sell one asset that's not performing for one that traditionally performs well in markets. Gold is a flight to quality. Bonds are typically considered a flight to quality. It depends on the market. And then Bitcoin within the crypto market is that flight to quality. Even though it's going down, it's not going down at the same rate. Now, a couple things we have to talk to before I get to talk about the cure for all of this, the potential cure, is let's look at the price of things. Now, oil, sharp decline in oil prices. Why is oil important? Oil is involved in every single goods and service, the creation and shipping and delivery of every single good and service that there is, pretty much. I mean, with some exceptions. But we see a sharp decline in oil. Well, if the price of oil goes down, so does inflation. I've been saying this for the last 3 years, is that as oil drops, so does inflation. Because that's just the cost of things. It's the cost of manufacturing. And we were at, look at this, we were at $80 a barrel. We've been as high under Biden as $115 a barrel. No wonder there is inflation. And no talks with OPEC about increasing supply at this point. We're down here and OPEC saying we're going to increase supply. Trump's, this pressure that Trump's applying applies to the whole world. Well, OPEC's going to want to get their money, so they're going to have to increase supply to lower the price so people continue to consume. Otherwise, if it's too expensive, you're just going to say, listen, instead of driving to work, I'm going to ride my bike, or I'm going to take public transportation, or I'm going to work from home, or I'm going to walk to work, whatever. You're not going to use gas because it's too expensive. Well, that's a problem for them, so they increase supply in order to lower price, increase their output, And so that's what we're seeing here is that price of oil is going down. We have the fear and greed. We're at all-time, not all-time, but pretty close to all-time high fear. We're at extreme fear, obviously. Now, the oil piece also leads into the M2 global money supply. We talk about this on all channels. They talk about it all the time. You see this huge spike. This is from COVID, the biggest spike in the shortest amount of time we've ever seen in global money. Everyone just pumped money into the markets, and that's what happened. But look at the M2 supply in the last year. It has gone up significantly. There's more and more money on the sidelines just waiting to strike. They were waiting for today. So when this money, they say, look, I got this cash and I need to put it somewhere, but I'm not comfortable putting it in real estate. Prices seem too high. I'm not real comfortable putting it into the stock market because the prices seem high. And I think it's based on a lot of not a lot of action. And it's based on a lot of inflated values. And bonds might be good. Bonds look attractive, but that rate of return right now is good, but it's not great considering I could put my money into a money market account and get 4 to 4.5%. So what do? That money's sitting on the sidelines until there's a sale. Well, look, there's a sale. That's why I believe that the return, might be more V-shaped than U-shaped as far as getting back to it. But that's not going to happen until some deals are made. And so there's already major players like, India, the fourth largest economy in the planet, wants to talk and negotiate and talk about free trade. Vietnam and India, they could replace China. China might make a very bad move. And some people are saying, well, everyone's just going to band together and they're just going to exclude the United States from the market. They're just going to exclude, or they're just going to do deals with themselves. Okay, they can do that, but someone's going to want to break rank and do business with the United States because they understand how big that actually is. And India might want to get in there and have a position like China. Well, China doesn't want to negotiate right now, but when they see us at the table with India, they're not going to want to miss out because they have a lot to lose. They make a lot of things for us, and they're not going to want to lose. So they'll come running to the table to negotiate when that happens. Vietnam, same thing. They are a fairly large country with very low production costs. They could help replace China's production. And maybe we hedge it out. Maybe we talk to Indonesia, India, Thailand, Vietnam. A lot of those Southeast Asia countries want to do business with us, and China's kind of had a stranglehold on us for many, many years. So cost of things, that might actually help. So this is very interesting news right now. Let's look at this finally. Let's take a look at the what the Fed's doing. Now, this is important. I believe that we are going to hear a statement from the Fed. Oh, man, if you had heard my commentary last night in a video that got ruined, but I said in the morning, I guarantee this looks more like 50-50. And here we are. This is for the May meeting. Now, there's a 45% chance of a rate cut. Wasn't expecting one about a week ago. Now we got a 45% chance of a rate cut. I'm going to tell you that it might happen before May. There might be an emergency cut before May, depending on what happens today and tomorrow. Now, that would send shockwaves through the market, but the Fed might do that to bring some, stability back. Now, look at this. Let's just go all the way to the end of the year. We are looking at more than there's a 68%, 79, 80. There's about an 81% chance that we're going to have at least 100 basis point cuts. And after today, this could look different. If the bloodbath continues in the markets today, you could see this. I'm pushing my hand. You could see this move more towards more than 100 basis point cut by the end of the year. And this is the chaos. This is the chaos that the tariffs have created. Now, remember why this is happening. Two things. One, Trump wants to negotiate better trade deals. Okay, I'm not saying whether you love him or hate him, that's what he's trying to do. And he's also trying to get the Fed to lower the rate so they can refinance that 7 or 8 trillion. I almost said thousand, then I said million, then billion. No, $1 trillion. $6 to $9 trillion of debt to refinance. If we refinance it at 4.5%, we're looking at $1.5 trillion a year in actual payments. That is huge. That's way too big. So the whole point was to lower that rate to like 2%. So that cost of that money isn't nearly as high and suffocating of the American people. It's like having your own debt and your interest repayment of your debt alone is more than you make in a year. That'd be a problem. that would be a problem. And that would be a problem. So all in all, here's what I see. I see this market playing out until the losses will continue and the pain will continue until deals are made. And I do believe that these presidents and premiers or whatever they call them in other countries, they're going to want to run to the table because their businesses in their country are hurting if they depend on selling stuff to the United States. And the United States, as the biggest consumer on the planet, most people sell to us and they make a lot of their profits here. And they've made them, I don't want to say unjustly, but they've made it unbalanced. They're not paying tariffs to bring stuff in our country, but we're paying extreme tariffs to bring it into their country. Not very fair. It's like a one-way door where they just want to prop up America just enough to sell at things and tax them. And our taxes pay for everyone else's country, just about. And I tell you, these countries, when one starts going and then that news gets around, there's gonna be a floodgate of people. There's already 50 countries that want to renegotiate the trade deals with Trump. So very interesting. I know Israel, India, Vietnam. I mean, there's a whole bunch of big hard-hitting countries, producing countries that want to meet with Trump. It's only a matter of time before they cave and renegotiate more fair deals for us, and we pay less. And that'll bring down inflation. That'll bring down our cost of goods to some degree. So we'll see what happens. My opinion today, I'm very off. If I think we're at the end, I might dump a long leverage in, but low leverage, long in. But I'll be honest, I don't think today is the day. It could be. I think we're going to see some pain today. And I think tomorrow, Trump's going to let people feel the pain today. And then tomorrow, I think, we're starting to see possibly, this is not financial advice. I'm not your financial advisor. I'm just playing out things in my head on screen for you to listen and be entertained. But I think that we start to fix this problem pretty quickly. I don't think it's going to last months. It could be weeks. Or we could go into a great deep depression and never come out of it, and that's the end of this great nation. I just don't think that's the case. But that's certainly a possibility. So with my bags, I'm holding tight. Haven't sold anything. My wife made a very good comment. She goes, I told her yesterday the market is dumping. Price of crypto is down like 30, 40% on some of these altcoins. And she doesn't know what most of that means, but she says to me, looks me square in the eye, and she goes, well, don't sell. That's the truth. I believe it's going to be, I'm bullish long term. I believe it's going to get better. Now, if you don't believe it's going to get better and it's going to get worse, then maybe you want to sell. But if you believe it's going to get better and you have dry powder and you want to DCA in, a lot of my positions, I wouldn't be I would be worsening my position by buying right now because I hold it lower than this cost. But I could get some more at a discount and watch it go up. Hopefully, that's the theory. But with that, that's all I got. I hope you got something out of this rant today. And if you did and you made it this long, please hit the subscribe button and the like button, share, comment, do all those things. And I will see you next time.